when 2 Israeli staffers were murdered, executed on the streets of DC. Only yesterday, we saw a fire attack.
What was the link? What was the link there? Are you saying that the person?
2 days after
are you saying
Fletcher,
the person that perpetrated that appalling murder was actually even aware of the story you're talking about? You're drawing a direct link.
The Chicagan that committed that murder shouted "Free Palestine," and this is for Gaza.
You mentioned something about 48,000 babies.
2 days after that full story went around the world.
It was a full story because the idiot that came out with it should have known better. I didn't promote that in any way at all, other than to say.
But you are promoting false allegations of starvation and targeting civilians.
No, I'm promoting the fact that Israel's government launched a 3-month blockade, which has led
without
to
the context
people
of
starving.
25,000 tons of trucks of aid having been provided before that.
Dave,
facts without context are misleading.
All right, Dave, we're a bunch of deluded clowns who are being misled. Israel's government is telling the whole truth here. Everyone else is lying or being taken in by lies.
To that. Well, first of all, I'll just say that even the idea, like, as you hear these arguments, Piers, where they'll say, like, well, we know these numbers that the Gaza Health Ministry puts out are lies because we know Hamas lies. And look, the proof of that is that they revised their numbers down at one point. But doesn't that just kind of lead to the question, Piers, then, like, why would they revise their numbers down?
Why wouldn't they double
lying? Why, right? Why wouldn't they just stick with the original numbers that they had?
In fact, the buzzword of the debate.
It's what always happens with the pro-Israel people is like they use what is a point on my side as a point on their side.
And by the way, I wouldn't trust Hamas as far as I could bloody throw them, right? They're a bunch of despicable death cult murderers, right? Just to be crystal clear. I wouldn't trust them as far as I could throw them. And yet historically, their figures through this health authority in this conflict going back decades have turned out to be reasonably accurate. I know that because Israel has accepted them over the years.
And Piers, as you know, because I've been coming on your show for a long time now, I've always said the same thing too. I also don't really trust the Gaza Health Ministry. I'm just making the point that them revising the numbers down would be a point of evidence that they're being honest, not a point of evidence that you can't trust them. But look, I will just say this, okay? And Piers, again, because I've been coming on your show, I've done a lot of these debates, over the last year and a half or so. I would never, like, if you remember, there was this example of the guy in Florida who is being charged with attempted murder right now because he shot 2 people who he thought were Palestinians. Turned out they weren't. He was wrong. But I would never use that as an example in one of these debates and say, aha, pro-Israel person, you're responsible for that.
Right.
I'm a free market libertarian, free market capitalist guy. I would never use that in an argument and say, you're responsible for that, because it's the cheapest, lamest form of argument. You are not responsible if you're telling the truth for as you see it, for some crazy person committing a horrific act of violence. But look, here's the bottom line, Piers. I understand Natasha wants to sit here and say, the reason you've changed your mind is because you've fallen for the propaganda. You've fallen for the lies. The reason why everyone is so outraged is because they're falling for these propaganda. The truth is that the reason why Piers and so many people around the world are turning on what the Israeli government is doing is because it's just so freaking horrible. I mean, look, I admire you being a lawyer and trying to defend your client. I guess that's what lawyers got to do no matter how guilty your client is. Piers, if I'm ever charged with murder, get this lady to represent me. So that's who I want on my team.